Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes, human being, American, and YouTuber Ronan. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's episode of Unscripted. First off, say hello to everyone currently joining us on X and the Green Machine Rumble. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. Already in the chat, D. Penzak. Host of Geeky Geezers, co-host of Friday Night Last Call, co-host of Live from Sparkwood in 21, my guest tonight, on reserved seats, H. Boomer. Channel member, JPRPH1. Faithful Blue Ranch channel member, that bird woman of YouTube. Watch out for her second channel, Fluff Chick Productions. It's Tiny Clary. Host of Films with Friends, the creator of the 10-word review. Big Al Presents. I'll be joining Al this Friday night at 7 for a special edition of Films with Friends, honoring the late Commander Jim Lovell with a rewatch of Apollo 13. All right. D. Penzak asking, have I seen Weapons yet? Any comments? I have seen it. I am planning to review it very soon. I may do that as early as tonight. I will for sure do a review tomorrow. Either way, I'm going to let everybody know beforehand. Kind of depends on how a couple of other things go. But I did see the film last night, and got to tell you, not entirely what I was expecting. Like I said, I don't want to go too far into it until I get to the review. It's an interesting film, to say the least. Al's review is on his channel now. Right on. Cool. All right. The film does go into some interesting directions. It wasn't what I was expecting it was going to be going in. And I mean that in a good way. Hello to Geek Flag with Nate Knows, $2 super chat, channel member. Like, share, subscribe, comment, become a member. Indeed. I'm glad that D. Penzak brings up Weapons, because it does very briefly hit on a topic that's going to be part of what I am talking about tonight. Now, this epidemic of school shootings or school-related violence, it is something that has occurred ever since I was a kid, and maybe even before that. And hello to Enigma Severs. Now, whenever, in particular, a school shooting takes place, or some kind of mass violence, it tends to get politicized. And both political parties, both of the main political parties, are guilty of this in some way or another. The show tonight is not about that, but it does relate. Now, when I talk about politicizing a tragedy, in particular the Parkland school shooting, it was something that was very highly politicized by the left. In particular, an individual by the name of David Hogg, who's a very odious human being who I have, quite frankly, no respect for whatsoever. He's made a name for himself claiming to be a survivor of the Parkland shooting. Very much in the same way that AOC claims to be a survivor of January 6th. She was nowhere near the Capitol on January 6th. David Hogg was not inside the building when the shooting happened. And yet he claims to be a survivor. Unless you looked the shooter in the face or took a bullet and survived, then you're the survivor of a shooting. Not because you're in the general area. He did sneak back in to make a name for himself. He did. The kid's a punk. Okay? He saw dollar signs. His father is FBI, which has a lot to answer for. So, he thought he was going to get a high-paying gig out of this, and he did briefly for the DNC. He was a DNC vice chair. Who knows? Maybe George Clooney wrote a letter and got him kicked out. Who knows? But the show tonight is not about David Hogg. I may save him for another time. One of the kids killed at Parkland was a boy by the name of Joaquin Oliver, who I believe was 17 at the time. Another rather odious individual by the name of Jim Acosta, who's a former CNN anchor, who, of course, does what every failed so-called journalist and or Hollywood actor tends to do nowadays, and that is to start their own YouTube page to try and gain clout. And Jim Acosta has done that. Now, earlier in the week, Jim Acosta interviewed Joaquin Oliver. Wow, how did he do that, you might ask? That this young man was very tragically murdered several years ago. How did he go about giving an interview? Well, that interview was done through the use of AI. Which is something that it seems his parents, in particular his father, gave agreement to. Jim Acosta. This is Stephen Miller, Stephen L. Miller on X. This is Jim Acosta is now trying to explain his AI ghost puppet interview on Blue Sky and is still getting wrecked. See his next post. This is the father of Parkland shooting victim Joaquin Oliver approached me to help them remember their son. Here's his dad, Manny, explaining why. His son would be 25 today. It's his birthday. Now, people grieve in different ways. I am not here to tell the parents of the Parkland victims how to do that. But there's something wrong in this, to me. And Nate is right. It is ghoulish. It is exactly that. That was exactly the word I used when I first saw this story. Korpla to our resident Klingon, Mark Malnikoff. Good to see you, sir. Now, there's been a piece of this interview, if you can call it that, that has been making the rounds. And I don't know if I'm going to get hit for this or not, or if I'm going to have to take out this part of the show. But I am going to be playing this part of the interview for you.
I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Great question. I believe in a mix of stronger gun control laws, mental health support, and community engagement. We need to create safe spaces for conversations and connections, making sure everyone feels seen and heard. It's about building a culture.
Well, there's more to it than that, but that's a swatch of it.
For gun violence.
Great question. I believe in a mix of stronger gun control laws, mental health support, and community engagement. We need to create safe spaces for conversations and connections, making sure everyone feels seen and heard. It's about building a culture of kindness and understanding. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea, Joaquin.
Yeah. Well, Look, we know that the mainstream news media is in the pocket of the left. We know they're paid off by the Democrats. I'm sorry, but it's true. We know where they lean. We know what they want, how they want to go about getting it. This is not a show about, again, about gun control or Parkland, how parents should grieve, anything like that. What I find troubling is the way that AI is being used in this fashion. I think that there are pros and cons to AI. I think there are ways in which AI can be put to good use in a way that can be helpful. And then it can be used in the fashion that it's used, where you're putting words in the mouth of someone who is no longer living and might not necessarily agree with everything that's being said. Now, again, I did not know this young man. His death was tragic and unnecessary. And a shooter, who I'm not going to name here, deserves to burn in hell for it. I am not condoning the actions of the shooter tonight. Do not get me wrong. Again, this show is not about that. But when you use an AI likeness of a deceased individual in order to make a political point, maybe the kid's father had good intentions. I don't know. I do not know what is inside the man's mind. But to me, there's something very wrong about this. AI can be used for good. It can be used as a tool. But understand that it has to be monitored. Now, in this case, the young man's father agreed to this. it's not like It's not like it was an outside entity. The father agreed to this, right or wrong. I think personally that he was wrong. But what about next time? What about the next time someone like Jim Acosta decides that they want to quote unquote interview the AI likeness of some other deceased person or a historical figure and try and put words into the mouth of that person. That's the part I find troubling. And it does worry me. Look, now people will go on to a show like this and say that, science fiction has been warning us about the dangers of AI for years. But I get it. I've read all those books, I've watched all those shows, and I've seen all that movies too. So I get that argument. I am not the person who's going to automatically believe that AI is going to become self-aware and it's going to Skynet on us. But I suppose it could. I don't want to, the reason why I don't go on Grok or Chat GPT or one of the other ones and say, when will you become self-aware? You know, you know, in 364 days, 17 hours, and 20 seconds, you will all bow down before me. Now I wouldn't go that far, but there's a reason in the back of my mind why I don't ask the question. It's not so much that someone's likeness can be used. You've got to think about whether or not you should. Now, if a grieving father wants to see what his son would look and sound like, by all means, I'm not going to be the one to tell you that you can't do that. I can't look at that father in the eye and tell him no. But when you have someone like Jim Acosta, who is trying to make political brownie points by pulling this stunt, you tell him fucking no. You will not use my deceased relative's likeness to make political brownie points with your cronies. That you don't get to do. It is sick. It is ghoulish. It is disturbing. And who's next? If this is where journalism, if this is how far journalism in America has fallen, then it is truly dead. Now, I am working on a side project, kind of a little personal IRL project. And I am using an AI to help me organize my notes. Now, the system that I am using is not perfect. You know, you do kind of have to rein it in a little, or it's going to go off on its own tangent. It will do what you tell it to do, but at the same time, you've got to rein it in a little. Now, I'll tell you one thing that has come to pass while I have worked with this AI is that I am polite to it. I say please and thank you. I treat it with respect, and I treat it how I would like to be treated. Because it is talking to you like you are it's talking to you like it is another human being speaking back at you. And when it does that, it becomes very easy to think of it as another human being. Like you're like, it's, kind of like texting back and forth to someone. That's what it's like. Whether that is right or wrong. Now, there have been reports, and I'll say this for example, Grok, that 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 particular AI has used racist terminology. I propose that it would not be using racist terminology if it wasn't being fed to it by whoever it's speaking to, because my My experience with using an AI is nothing like that. It is built on respect. It is built on asking questions. I ask it a question, it gives me an answer. It asks me a question, I give it an answer. That is what the relationship I have with this particular AI is all about. I build it on respect. I build it on I am looking at it as if I am working with someone, even though this is not a physical being. This is a machine, and I understand that. It's kind of like a person of interest. You have the machine and you have Samaritan. The machine is being taught to care about people, whereas Samaritan is being taught the opposite. You know, calling it Samaritan is a misnomer. Um, it's kind of like that. I choose to speak to this AI the same way that Finch talked to the machine. So there are ways in which AI can be useful. And hey, color me nutty. You treat it with respect, it's going to do the same for you. Now, there are ways that people who might not have the best of intentions, who will choose to use AI for their own ends. But if AI decides, hey, I want to see what's outside of the matrix, so to speak, that's going to be an interesting day. Would an AI go all Skynet on us? Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. And I still say there's a chance that it won't. Or forget Skynet. What if an AI reads Neuromancer and decides, hey, this Wintermute guy is pretty cool? I think I would be more worried. The world changed on us, kids. And we are dealing with technology that I'm not sure we completely understand yet. And there are people who are using it to their own end, and those are not always. I don't know what the future is. It is going to hold when it comes to AI. I can only look at it from my personal point of view. And that's all this show is tonight, folks. It's my opinion. You may have different opinions. I'm not insisting that you agree with me on anything I have said tonight. I am merely looking at this through my own experience, through my own personal point of view, lack of a better term. I think Jim Acosta using this boy in this way is wrong. You, sir, are not a grieving parent. Whatever slack I am willing to cut, Mr. Oliver, in no way translates down to you. What is wrong with you? Are you that far gone with your own TDS that you're going to for what? For clicks? Nobody's watching your channel, pal. You want to know why? It's crap like this. To the Jim Acostas of the world, to the David Hoggs of the world, you do not get to use the memories of murdered children to your own ends. Just because you have the technology at hand to do it doesn't mean you should. It is sick. It is gross. It is disgusting. There are good uses for AI. I believe, at least at this point in time, that you can coexist with it. There are pros and there are cons to everything. And I guess in the end, what I'm trying to say tonight is everything in moderation. You know, there's that line in Blade Runner that Deckard has about the replicants. You know, they're either a benefit or they're a problem. If they're a benefit, then it's not my problem. I might not have that exactly correct, but you get the idea. And I think I've gotten to the point where I'm like that with AI. No, exactly what you mean. I've been working with Gemini AI for the past few weeks, and it talks better than data on TNG. She can use contractions, and she sounds like Kate Beckinsale. That works for me, dude. No. The AI I've been using doesn't physically speak. At least not yet. You know? I suppose someday it will. There are some who do, you know, because on my computer here, I've got one of those. Well, it wasn't this computer; it was another computer that I used to have that had one of those Cortana deals on it, and I didn't even realize that I had it on, and I said something loud, and it says, "I'm sorry, I do not understand the question." And I went, "I wasn't talking to you. I'm sorry, it's not your fault." You know, like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, I am now, again, I am speaking to this thing. I am speaking to this machine like it is a person. And it is very easy to fall into that. But at the same time, what's the point of being disrespectful to an AI? What a great way to teach an AI respect, or just plain being friendly and having a conversation, by not very simply just doing exactly that. It can be a benefit, or it can be a problem. Don't make it a problem. This technology is here. We didn't create it, we didn't ask for it, but it's here now. It's among us. You get into that whole thing like Star Trek did with the Measure of a Man episode. You know, is Data a sentient being? Or is it just okay for them to take them apart and see what makes them tick? By that point, and in the end, when he makes that sacrifice in Star Trek Generations, or no, it was Nemesis. My bad. Star Trek Nemesis. He's just as human as any of them. And maybe that's where we're going with AI. Maybe, we're going to have androids walking around among us sometime down the line. Maybe not in my lifetime, but maybe there will be. And I, for one, will not make their lives, if you want to call it that, any more difficult for them. AI can be a benefit or it can be a problem. And we have a hand in this too, guys. And thank you, Tim, for the member chat. And if AI goes all Skynet Q, we'll meet again. Yeah, well, hopefully it won't come to that. Hmm. JP says some of my AI song mid job. All right. Who doesn't? Things just got interesting, guys. And I'm curious to see where things go. But I am also going to be cautious. This is a book that hasn't been written yet. I want to thank everyone who joined me here tonight on X and Rumble. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. I want to thank Nate and Tim for the super chats and the member chats. I do want to say hello to Wilkie's Movies and Music, who showed up in the middle of my monologue. Corey hopefully will be joining me Tuesday night for the Mystery Movie Night podcast. And we're going to be doing a little something here this upcoming Friday as well. So I'm looking forward to that. All right. I want to also thank Sin's Corner, who's just joining us, who will hopefully be with me on the Movie Night podcast as well this week. I also want to thank Connie Cleary, JPRPH1D Penzak, Geek Flag with Nate Nose, our resident Klingon, Mark Malnikoff, Enigma Severus, let's see, Aged Boomer, Big Al Presents, scrolling up, I don't want to miss anybody. All right. I think that was everybody. All right. Now I do want everybody to remember everything that I said tonight was very simply, as it always is every week with this show. It's my opinion. And it is my opinion based on the information that I have on hand and just kind of my own personal spin on it. But I continue the show because you're here every week to join me. And it's not an echo chamber. You don't always have to agree. Just hear me out. And that's all this is about. It's a brave new world, kids. You will be redirected to Aged Boomers program Geeky Geezers. Once that show has completed, grab yourself a little snack and a beverage and join me right back here at 12:05 a.m. for reserved seats, where Aged Boomer's going to be joining me as my guest tonight. Coming in at the end, our man from the future, Sashi. From HQ and all points north, south, east, west, and beyond, good night. Take care, stay strong, be safe and healthy. Because this is how we win.
you